Hey everybody, it's Andre from the Eaglesoft Field Guide. I'm here with an old friend, Tammy. How are you, Tammy?
I don't like that you called me old.
Now, I'm old. See the gray hair?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. You're my young friend that I've known a long time. How's that?
There we
That's
go.
better.
So much better. I'm
And
good. I'm good.
Tammy is one of my favorite kinds of people, which is a Patterson certified technology advisor. And I'm so glad
Yay.
that she took the time to do this. One of the things that I talked about when this crisis began, geez, it's only been a week, but um, or almost 2 weeks now, is really taking this time to dig deep into Eaglesoft, really define the things that have become messed up over the years and how to clean things up so that when we're over this hump, we're coming out lean, mean, and ready to treat our patients, but also to be able to knock off some of the things that we see on a regular basis, like not being able to collect co-payments because our estimations are off.
Hmm.
The reason people are using this time to work on accounts receivable and outstanding claims is because a lot of their systems weren't set up properly in order to be able to do those estimations in the first
Yeah.
place. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're with me today.
Cool. Me too. Yeah. I think this is an awesome time to tighten up our processes, our processes, and, you know, so much of our time on a day-to-day basis, we're answering the phone, we're scheduling, we're in this box, right? And you can't really get outside of that box. So here's our chance. Let's take advantage of it.
Yeah. And now to tell everybody what territory, what area do you cover, and where's your neck of the woods?
Yeah, so I'm up in Jacksonville. So I work through the Orlando branch. I have a coworker. Her name is Brooke. Brooke's on maternity leave. She had the sweetest little baby girl.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, she is down. She covers mostly the Orlando area. We're also covering the Tampa branch right now.
Mhm.
They don't have a technology advisor, so the two of us kind of cover that. So right now I'm just stretched over most of the state until Brooke comes back. But
Sounds good. Yeah, well, we were used to that. I mean, I used to
yeah,
cover so many of the territories, it was
for sure.
crazy. Yeah. So one of the things that we talked about, and we always kind of chat back and forth, on a regular basis, we talked about um, digging deep into service types because,
Hmm.
along with fee schedules and coverage books, one of the things that helps to really estimate better is having service types that are for areas where insurances sometimes don't cover within a same category of coverage. Like, what do you typically see when people have occlusal guards? What category, what service type do you typically see those listed as?
Yeah, so adjunctive general services, right? So it's kind of lumped all in that like catch all.
Yeah. So one of the things we're going to talk about is how to break those things out. And so those things like occlusal guards, like perio maintenance, posterior resins, those things could have their own category of coverage. All right. And in the Facebook group, one of the things I see all the time is people talking about, do you have um, a form that you use when you call the insurance companies, that you write down these coverage breakdowns? Um, and I said, yeah, there's a bunch of them in the group that people have created these great insurance breakdown forms.
Hmm.
Um, but then how do you take that information and put it into Eaglesoft?
Yeah, how do you use it sensibly?
Exactly. So one of the things I figured we'd start with is let's go into an employer.
Okay.
All right. And then I'm just going to take this employer that I have here. And typically down here this is kind of where we're going to focus with service types. But, most offices have adjunctive, and then, I have an administrative line, but the typical ones are just what we typically see, the 180/50, basic,
Yeah.
preventive, and major. And we realize that there's so many more categories that we can utilize. So how do we get more information down at the bottom of this screen where it says service types, so that we can say how much they cover for occlusal guards, how much they cover for posterior resins, how much they cover for those things, and give us some general ideas that we can then tighten up the office to be able to do some better estimations.
Cool.
Cool. So
So yeah, another one I was gonna say, you were mentioning like occlusal guards, but like I'm also seeing where the FMX anymore, right? Your
yeah,
FMX isn't covered at 100% like your diagnostic, like it used to be.
yeah. And now the one thing we can't fix is frequencies. So that's
Right.
something we're not going to be able to fix. That's something you need to make sure that you're in your employer notes. And that's not what this is going to solve, but this is going to solve those nuances within a category where they might have subcategories within that category. So, and the way that we fix this is under list and general setup. And we're going to go down to service types. And these are those types of services, like we said, those categories of services, and then the subcategories of services. And I already have a bunch of them in my system so that everyone can see, I use my system as just a test. Mine's like a test kitchen. So I put all kinds of stuff in here. So I may have extra stuff that people will never run into, but I always have extra stuff so people can get an idea of how you can make this better. So if you look at my list, and you can see it's pretty long.
Yeah, that's a long one.
I've got adjunctive, I've got administrative. So my administrative are things like, not that I would ever suggest some of these things, but if office is charged to copy records, well, that's an administrative thing. That's not an adjunctive thing. So I have a category for my administrative stuff. All right, broken appointment fees, which I don't ever use as a service code, but that would be an administrative thing. And then for my offices that do general anesthesia, I've got general versus nitrous.
Mm-hmm.
I've got diagnostic. I've got my diagnostic non-covered. And that's exactly what you were talking about with the FMX. So you might even have a diagnostic and then a diagnostic FMX category here.
Yeah. See, I break it down even way further.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what offices should be doing. And hopefully, maybe if you have a list, we can tag that in the Facebook post with the video. Okay. So we'll actually, we'll print a report and we'll make a screenshot or a PDF, and we'll tag that in the notes here so you guys can see how you can break this down to the finite, so that when we go back, and we're going to do this, we're going to go back to service codes and see how we connect them.
Exactly.
So I like that. So you break it down within diagnostic for even more categories.
Yeah. So I do it code specific.
Awesome. I love it. Yep. And then you can, like I said, guys, you can see I've got endo basic, endo major, and then I have my guards, sleep guards, whatever you see. I started doing this. Offices where they're finding that the implant placement is one coverage and then implant restorative is another coverage.
Yep.
Ortho major, ortho minor, and this could be simple extractions as opposed to surgical extractions. I always do my orthodontic adult and then ortho child, perio maintenance, perio major, perio minor, and again, you could split this out even more. Preventive, and then I have a category I call preventive non-covered. That's for my adult sealants. I'm sorry, my adult fluoride. That's kind of what falls in that category of a preventive procedure that's not typically covered. Sealants and molars and premolars I've found have been splitting recently. And then products. Do you know if, in Florida, are products taxable?
Products are taxable.
Okay. In Pennsylvania, products are taxable here too. So we always want to make sure that offices are splitting out your product, anything that's over the counter, your whitening pins, those kind of things. You should be making sure you have a separate category for that, but also to make sure it doesn't show up as a covered service.
Yeah.
Prosto fixed multi-units, prosto fixed single units, prosto fixed single posterior units. So, we can really go into some real detail here. Mm-hmm. Maxillofacial prosthetics, which I don't know, I only have one office in the whole country that does maxillofacial prosthetics. And they do some really interesting things with replacement of noses and ears and all kinds of other stuff. It's a wild thing. And then your removable dentures and your removable repairs. And this is something that's really important. When we go in offices, almost all offices set up things back in the old way of 180/50.
Right.
And they usually put their removables, so prosto removable, under 50%. But 90% of the codes in the removable prosthodontic category are covered at 80%. All the repairs and adjustments and all that stuff are typically covered as 80%, where the dentures themselves are covered at 50%. So, that's that's a number one thing that should be fixed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. And then I finish up with anterior, cuspids, and posterior resin restoration. So
Mhm.
that's how I split out mine. And like I said, Tammy's going to give us her list too, so we can get in there. So you can see you could have a ton of different choices here. And now we'll talk about how to connect them to the
Okay.
codes. So what else did you think? What else did you come up with that would have added to this list? I mean, we're going to post it, but anything that you love?
Yeah, so I always do like buildups, right?
Okay.
Because the buildups are, oh, well, that's supposed to be included with the service, or it could be something completely separate. So then we could put a 0 on that. So what I did was I saw the offices where they have those nice, telephone lists. Sorry, my dog pushed her tennis ball underneath the couch, and she's
She's
been,
mad.
she's really frustrated, but she does it to herself. So I took their insurance letter that they call and confirm the insurance benefits with, and that's just kind of what I copy. So like you said, the perio maintenance, the buildups, adult sealants, all of those. And I added, instead of like a big group, I just kind of go down that list with them.
That's good. Yeah, and just
Yep,
basically duplicate what they already do.
exactly.
That's great. Yeah. And that's exactly what I was thinking in terms of when people ask me about those forms. Really, we want to duplicate that in Eaglesoft. So when you're on the phone with an insurance company, I'm going to go back to list an employer. So if I'm on the phone with an insurance company, I don't have to write it on a piece of paper and then transcribe it later. I can
Exactly.
just go right down my list and go name, group
Yep,
number, deductible maximum, your calendar year, and then here's my categories of coverage while I'm on the phone with them.
exactly.
And like Tammy said, if you're just duplicating what you already have on paper, then boom, you've got it. And when you're done, your employer's done.
Yep.
That's a great way to do it. So now that we've got those service types, we've got to connect our procedure codes to those service types.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go up to list, and I'm going to go to service codes. And now you can see, let's do this and let's sort it by service type just so it's easier. So now you can see here's all my adjunctive services, and there's my admin services and my diagnostic services. And again, Tammy said a great idea would be to take your full mouth series and have that be in a completely, again, a subcategory of diagnostic, which is a great idea. So you can see how those things get attached. Let me open one up. Let me just do the FMX since we were talking about that. 88 code. So here's my full series. And I'm actually going to do what Tammy suggested. I'm going to go to my diagnostic, and I'm going to make a new category. New diagnostic FMX, typically covered at 100%.
Yep.
And it's asking me if I want to make a deductible apply. I'm going to say no. All right. And I'm going to leave all of mine, and this is just one thing that I do. If I know for the most part they typically cover it, I would actually just put all of my percentages in for
Yep.
all of my employers. But what I like to do is I leave it at 0 so I can update it. If I add a new code, I'll update it as I go instead of
Exactly.
dumping it in. So I'm going to use that, and now you can see my service type for FMXs are at in their own little category of coverage.
Yep.
That's awesome. I love it.
Stop.
And you can see right here, I set up another code, and I have an internal code. So I have a admin code. So I have an A230, which is an intraoral image taken during treatment. So those are our working films.
Oh, cool.
And I have
Great
that set
idea.
up as a 0 fee, which won't go to insurance, but it's
Okay.
under my diagnostic non-covered services. And I suggest that offices, if you're doing endo and you take 3 images of that tooth, you need to be posting those into the account using that line item. In some states, and a couple of states that I've worked in, it was required that you notate all imaging that's done.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So this was an easy way for us to make sure it was there, not just in your notes, but also there. Because, what if you have somebody comes back and says, oh, you keep zapping me with x-rays? Well, you have no record of how many you took,
Yeah.
other than to go back and look at the number of images that were taken. But that still doesn't always tell you. And I'm only giving you this example because I ran into this with a lawsuit that happened.
Oh,
But the
wow.
patient said, they took a whole lot of x-rays on me. And in the system, there were 4 bite wings. But what we realized was we looked at the recycling bin, and the
Oh,
hygienist had taken 7
no.
images to keep 4.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So when it came down to it, they didn't have a leg to stand on. But in a situation like that, when you're taking working films, it was great because we are actually utilizing that code to show how many images were taken during that. So
Well, and I like it too, I think, because it shows added value, right?
exactly.
If you're giving them 3 PAs and you're not charging for it, now we show, hey, this is also extra something that we've done where there's no charge for it.
Yep.
So
That's
I
perfect.
like proving to the patient, you don't have to get charged for everything that we do.
Exactly. And you can see the same thing here. There's a perfect example where I have an office that does 2 bite wings as a second during a year. And if it's a non-covered service, it automatically, they post it this way so that it doesn't wind up showing as estimated insurance. There is a
Love
fee
it.
for it, but it doesn't show up as estimated insurance. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that's exactly how we're going to set this up. If you can see, here's oral cancer screening where the patient declined to have it done. So I kind of make up all these codes, and you can see all my diagnostic non-covered services. All right, and here's a preventive non-covered service where it's a person requests to have their teeth polished, but it won't show up as a estimated insurance on this line item. So that's how you can set it up so that now let's actually do a walkout and see how this will look when we walk it out.
Okay.
So to use Hank Aaron D1110. So here is our standard fee. We adjust off $45 because we're in network. And so we have a $59 fee. Insurance is going to cover that. Patient has a $10 copayment. This plan has a copayment that I have to set up on. But now I'm going to do an A1110, which is the one that I told you I set up without having estimated insurance. And now I can see there's nothing estimated there, and the patient's responsible for the whole thing. But they're both preventive line items.
Yeah, and then 2, by having separate codes for that, you can track how many additional pro fees outside of insurance that you have as well.
Yep.
I love all of the extra fancy little codes.
Yeah, and the same example of if we're doing fluoride. So here's my fluoride code that I set up as a preventive service. Now imagine one kid comes in, they're 14, the other kid comes in, they're 15, and we know that the cutoff age is 15. I'm going to do an A1206. And now that comes up with no coverage for that one. So right in the walkout, and that's a preventive non-covered service. So, and it's still going to go to insurance, but we know that that is for the 15-year-old and that one's for the 14-year-old. So we're not going to have our walkout statement be sort of skewed, because there's nothing worse than having a walkout statement. And, the 15-year-old and the 14-year-old have estimated insurance show up. And now we're saying to mom, oh, don't worry about that. Or don't pay attention to that number, because we know it's not typically covered.
Right.
Well, yep. I don't want to pay a copayment if you're going to tell me that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to clear out of Hank Aaron. And we're going to go back to looking at where we started. That was general setup and in service types. I always like to make sure that people see where I got that information so that they know how to get to it. And remember, this is the best thing about this. Because we're going through a bunch of downtime, this is the best time to get on the phone, call your local TA, to call the PTC and say, hey, can you spend some time with me, help me with some of this stuff, or at least give me some general ideas of what I can do in order to do some cleanup while I have this downtime.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of us TAs have access to be able to remote into the office's computers. So if somebody is there, even just one person, we can remote in and we can help them set this up hands-on. So we can show them how to do 1 or 2 of them, and then they can kind of take over. Or we could spend an hour with them. We're doing some specials, or at least I am in my territory. I'm doing some specials right now where I can remote into their computer and either do some cleanup with them or train them on how to do these types of things to get them ahead.
Do you have some information about that I could post in the Facebook group?
Yeah, I do. I'll send you the flyer.
Awesome. So that'll be great. So I'll make sure that that's linked in there. And like I said, Tammy's in the Jacksonville, Tampa area. But you know,
Yeah.
if you guys don't know who your local TA is, there's a link in the Facebook group for the map that kind of shows where everybody is. But you can also call your Patterson branch or call the PTC and find out who your local TA is and get them to help. But this is the perfect time to do this kind of cleanup. I'm glad you're doing that, Tim.
Thanks. Yeah, it's really worked out well for a lot of our offices.
Yeah. So let's see. We'll probably have another 10 minutes in
Okay.
here. So anything else that you can think of that would be great, like cleanup tools for folks as they go through this process?
Let me think. You caught me off guard with that one.
Well, I know one of the things we talked about. How about like smart notes and auto notes? Is this a good time to try to clean that stuff up?
Oh, that's my jam. I love what I think that has been such a game changer.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much that you can do with it. Yeah, let's go into it.
So I mean, you know, I'm like an auto notes freak. So I've actually
Right.
gone through and just updated all of my auto notes with smart notes. So all of what I did is just for my demo, you know, so I show people but now I see the way I have mine set up is I have my hygiene notes with H's and my doctor's notes
Cool.
with D's. And then now I put S in, so I know that those are smart notes.
Yep.
So I've actually gone through, and this is, again, now that we have the downtime, we can go through the process of setting up those smart notes. And the cool thing is, everybody knows, like, you know, if you go look in a cabinet someplace, you know the kind of anesthesias you use.
Right.
So why not go in here and set up all your anesthesias and say, these are the things that we use in the office, bupivacaine, you know, carbocaine, and then make sure you're writing out long form. You know, make sure you're putting the 1 to 200,000. Don't abbreviate, because this is the best thing about this is you don't have to type this over and over and over again.
Yeah, like that's what I say about the smart notes. My goal is to make them or to eliminate typing as much as possible.
Exactly. Yep. So what smart notes allow you to do, and I'm going to kind of give my own terms for what this is. These are all the sort of choices that in the past when we had auto notes and you kind of filled in the blanks. These are the things you would have filled the blanks in with.
Right.
Yep. So we can go through here and fill in the blanks. And I love using my AAP diagnostic codes when we're talking about perio. Is it generalized chronic, generalized healthy?
Mm-hmm.
So we can do this and set that up so that when we write perio notes, we can just grab and paste the things that are in that area. How about, like I said, your anesthesias, things that when you write it out over and over again, all the cements that you use in the office, the brands of composites that you use, you know, you might as well just put that in there. Core materials, crown types, and you know, what kind of crowns are you doing? And you know, this will help you to be able to just paste in what you're doing.
So have you done anywhere, the reason that we're doing this crown is because it's a large amalgam or it is a broken cusp.
Yeah.
And then you use that diagnosis twice?
What I do is I actually use the IDC-10 codes. And again, this is my full list, but I actually use the IDC-10 codes so that they're consistent, along with some other, you know, like modifiers. But I start with this, and then there's other reasons why that procedure is done. But yeah, like you said, what I'm trying to do, and like you said, is set it up so that the offices can just pick and choose from a list. So they're consistent, along with, of course, doctors have to have comments about the procedure, you know, that are kind of free form. But procedurally, it is what it is. I
have a way to show you that, to do something for that too.
Oh, cool. Well, that's great.
So what I do with that, so go to an auto note.
Okay. List, and we'll go down to my auto notes. All right, and let's just pick a crown.
Yeah, perfect.
Let's do, here's a CAD CAM crown. Edit, go.
Okay, so my thought process is I never want them to have to go back and reread the auto note. So if there's anything additional that they have to write, what I will do is so your comments as needed, what do you do for the custom there? What's your smart note for that?
Where it says custom, that just allows you to freeform type it.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what I do as well. So I just say custom, and then down at the bottom where they do the custom response,
Mhm.
I just say to add in that custom response. That's exactly what I do. Love
Perfect.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I don't know if you knew this, but I actually, I finished a book on progress notes.
You
And
did
it's,
not.
yeah, I wrote an entire book on how to properly write progress notes. And then I have a companion to that that's all smart notes.
I want to be you when I grow up.
Well, but you know what? It's been about a year and a half I've been working on this, but every time I get it finished, I realize, boy, there's some more stuff I can
Something's
add to it.
changed.
Yeah. So, you know, it went out to the publisher, well, to the editor to be reviewed. And what I did is I said, you know what? I really don't want this to be a static book. I don't want this
Yeah.
to be a hard book
Cool.
that once somebody buys it, it's antiquated.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to turn it into a digital format where I can constantly update it and the owners of the book constantly get the updates.
No way. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's kind
Super
of where I
cool.
am, and I'm trying to figure out how to make sure that it becomes a thing, but it's
Mhm.
just been a nightmare. But I actually went through this process, and what I had to do is I actually had to sit with somebody who's my mentor, a clinician, who actually would use the auto note and then go, that doesn't really work, and then do it again and do it again, and then reformat everything. So I did that with both a doctor, a dentist, and then with a hygienist, and we got them down to where they would pass the muster if it was in a education setting. So if it was at one of the dental schools. So it's pretty clean, but it's obviously it's overdone because what we would have done in dental school is different than what we do in the real world.
Of course.
But
for sure.
yeah, but it's fun to be able to do this stuff.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love those.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't like it when they see it without the proper training because they feel like it just doesn't do it's not efficient.
Right.
But man, you can make these so incredibly efficient.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it makes everything faster, and for legal reasons, the great
More
thing is
thorough.
Exactly.
And consistent, right?
Exactly.
Everybody's putting in the same note.
Yep. So let's see, before this cuts us off.
Okay.
So that's cool. So like I said, in the comments for this video, we'll tag the service types Tammy has, and mine are already in the Facebook group, so you don't have to worry about that. But we'll tag hers, and then we'll put the flyer that Tammy has for her dial-in ability to get into your practices, and hopefully you can reach out to the other TAs in the country to be able to help you with that. But you know, I'm so glad you got a chance to spend time with me today. This is a big help for the Eaglesoft users. I mean, that's exactly what we do every day.
Hey, it's awesome. I'm glad I got to spend time with you too. And sorry about my golden retriever.
Oh, that's you know, that's like what do you call it? Color when it comes to
look here, I'll show you. There she is.
Oh, there she is.
And there's the tennis ball she wants me to throw.
Yeah, okay. I know that feeling.
So demanding.
Well, that's our children, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks for hanging out with me, Tammy. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.